guys, Evan from Gymaware. We're really happy to be supporting Coach DeMayo's podcast series once again. For those that don't know, our main product is Gymaware. It's the gold standard for measuring performance and implementing velocity-based training in the weight room. It excels in busy team training environments, and for many coaches, it's the Swiss Army knife of their toolkit. The Gymaware is used for athlete profiling, jump testing, fatigue monitoring, and for lifting within velocity zones. The system provides real-time feedback on individual targets, plus it's got an impressive range of leaderboards. Now, for those that are after a VBT device that's affordable, for the individual and for smaller groups, we recently released our new laser-based product, Flex. Importantly, it's been independently validated and proven to be both accurate and reliable. So if you're interested in either product, or you want to learn more about the velocity-based training and how it can help you as a coach, check out our website or contact us directly. So in the meantime, we trust you enjoy the Coach DeMayo's podcast, Outside the Rack.
The world of strength and conditioning is filled with some fantastic practitioners that are always searching for more. But more what? What are strength and conditioning coaches searching for to better their ability to prepare their athletes? Well, what about cutting-edge information? Or a place where you can find different opinions from forward-thinking coaches on what you're doing, how you're doing, and try to get feedback to be better for your athletes? Or what about a place where you'll find like-minded coaches that can provide solid coaching advice and career development for you as you progress through your career as a strength and conditioning professional? Well, this is exactly why we built the Strength Coach Network. You'll have access to exclusive monthly content on top of the sensationally active forum that we have where you can communicate with coaches all over the world to find those answers that you're looking for to help you be a better practitioner for your athletes. So make sure you hop on over to strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS, that's strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS, and get your 48-hour trial for only $1. I look forward to seeing you in the Strength Coach Network.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the 61st episode of Outside the Rack, brought to you by Kinetic Performance, the makers of Gymaware. In this show, we're just going to try to dive a little deeper into the minds of the top practitioners in the world of sport performance to learn a little bit more about who they actually are and how they got to where they are today. Today, we are joined by the head of S&C for Surrey County Cricket Club in the United Kingdom, Darren Venness. Dazzy! Thanks for being with us, brother.
Yes, mate. We're here. We're good to go.
You know,
here, mate. Final. We've had a few hiccups.
Yeah, it's funny. It's weird, like with COVID and, you guys being the first internationals to play, it got difficult. It got tricky.
I mean, the New York time difference, it's amazing how many times that became a drama, and then we almost made it, and then there's been a couple of things, last minute hiccups, but here we are. We're good. We're sat down. I'm buzzing, mate.
Yeah, and I'm so happy to see it. So glad you're doing well, brother. But before we get going too far, man, who is Dazzy?
Who am I? What? So Daz Venness. I'm the ripe old age of 50 these days. So been around since the 70s, I've been lifting since the 80s, coaching since the 90s, and primarily from a coaching point of view in English cricket. So worked for Surrey County Cricket Club, one of the 8 counties, and happily married, father of 2 girls. They're growing up fast, and luckily not turning my hair too grey, and That's about it in a brief nutshell.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you that. I guess that's the difference between pro sport over in England and college sport over here, because the game's turned me as gray as can be. So it's just But yeah,
if the camera's picking up, I'm looking quite dark at the minute. There's plenty of silver in this beard, mate. Trust me, it's kicking on.
Dapper though. It's the educated look. That's what I like to say.
Yeah, that's a contrast for me. The educated look at my mouth, and you get the Brummie accent comes out from time to time, and yeah, that changes things a little bit. But yeah, that's my cross to bear.
No, I love it, brother. But listen, man, as a guy that's been, in cricket for a while and is kind of, worked his way through really, like we could say, like through the inception of what we all do. I'm really fired up to get you down here and to be able to start with this first question, brother. And that is, if you wouldn't mind, describe a learning situation that brought about an epiphany in your career.
Okay. So I've got two here. So my first one came well and truly pre-cricket. So before cricket, as is often the case with lots of lads that live and breathe the gym, I had an evening job, which was a nightclub bouncer. So all through the late 80s and the early 90s, I was working the doors in Birmingham, and yeah, it was an interesting time. It was a busy time, and there's lots of stories that you and I could have on another day. But the big epiphany, the big one for me, if I reflect on that, and I've spent obviously because of the mishaps, we've had plenty of time to reflect on this, is communication and the use of language. So whilst I was working the doors, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. I wanted to have a good night. The people in the clubs wanted to have a good night. I didn't want to have a punch up every 5 minutes, and I didn't want any significant, aggro and behaviour that's going to spoil my night. Never mind anybody else's club. So I was always keen on trying to chat my way through a situation and see if we could calm things down just by having a decent conversation. And pretty often, relatively often, I actually managed to do it. And I did it enough that it was my third course of action. And the amount of times that as I reflect, the amount of times that it got me out of trouble is phenomenal. And the truth is, if it went wrong, there's a good chance you're walking away with stitches at the end of the evening. And if ever there was an incentive to get it right, with some of the best ones, it's either get it right or you're running the risk of a trip to A&E, accident and emergency, and getting them stitches done. So the ability to communicate effectively then was a massive turning point in my pattern of behaviour, let's say. Because I went literally straight from working on the nightclubs in the evenings and then transferred into professional sport and started my work originally down in Somerset in the south of England before I went to Surrey in the southeast. There's no doubt that ability to just look for effective communication that stood me in good stead. And then the big one in sport, if we go back, we're talking at least a decade. I had an appraisal. So I'd want to, every year we all get appraised and we all have an appraisal, and my line manager sat down and we went through a few points, and we're talking about areas to improve. And there was a few where it's like, yeah, completely agree. Yeah, understood. I'll put that in place. That's good feedback. And there was a few points that I disagreed with and fundamentally disagreed with. And we went backwards and forwards, and I've still got an excellent relationship with the guy that was my line manager at the time. And we're not really getting anywhere. We're at loggerheads. And the bottom line is he had an opinion at the time, and I had some data and some hard facts that countered that opinion. And the one thing that we're seeing these days is there's plenty of people saying that your opinion doesn't overrule my hard facts. Well, at that time, I was thinking it does. And a few days later, I have another meeting with the next man, the man at the top of the food chain, the CEO. And the feedback I got then was very, very similar to that of my line manager. And that was my epiphany. That was a pivotal moment for me, because what I realised, although I'm stood there and I'm trying to defend my case with this hard data, and I had the results to back up my side of the argument and counter the opinion that was there, it wasn't enough. And that, again, was a massive turning point for me, because I realised that my communication at that point, it wasn't effective enough. Whatever I was saying and however I was communicating and trying to get that message across, it wasn't as effective as at the time I thought it was. I thought I was doing a cracking job of getting the message across. And the good thing is that the lads, the players, the squad understood that, but feeding up the chain, it was an issue. And I knew then that if I didn't rectify that, I'm living on borrowed time, regardless of how effective my programming might have been, my comms with the players, the results, the hard statistics that were there, the reduction in issue injuries, that are always a decent measure of an effective sort of training program in sport anyway. So that again, that another epiphany where I thought I was doing it right, and it just wasn't good enough, and I had to sharpen up. So there's two for me, that if your communication is off, then it doesn't matter. It does not matter how good your programming is. It does not matter how effective you've been in improving performance, reducing injury rates, and all the other variables that come in our roles. And it was the comms, it was the communication, and recognizing that I couldn't talk to people outside of my immediate loop like you and I would chat. I needed to talk how I had to reframe 90% of language just to get it understood and that the points hit home.
Yeah, man. I think nowadays people like to say that, you meet them where they're at, right? Like that's the new cool thing to say, where we would be like, you put a post on Instagram or something for some of the younger kids, or, understanding the sport language or whatever, or being able to talk somebody who's, you said you're 1 or 4 a night, like a guy who's 5 or 6 a night in, and understanding the language to get them to go from throwing bows to walking away. I mean, it all ends up being, how can we figure out what the method to get through their skull is, and slow down and get there.
100%. And like I said, with the players, that was relatively, I was talking their language and they understood it and they were engaged and cracking on. And I mean, I've always been a fan of sort of cognitive evaluation theory, and that positive feedback loop, and using that kind of language as a powerful tool for engagement and buy-in. And that's never let me down with the squad members and the players. But managing up the chain, that was something that it was another massive learning curve, and a whole different set of language sort of variables. So it reinforces that point exactly, mate. You've got to meet them on their side of the fence, but it's easy to say that on Instagram, but then are you actually delivering it? I thought I was at the time. I'm definitely better now, but again, huge epiphany for me, and a huge learning curve again, and a very fast sort of self-appraisal.
It's easy to say that on Instagram, but are you actually delivering it? I love that.
That's it. It's got to be. And there's only one way you'll know, and it's an easy one to find out. You just look at the face, and you can see the reaction, and you can read the body language, which again, is another factor of those years in the nightclubs, reading body language, trying to figure out how that changes and what's coming, what's going to follow. Again, with those circumstances, quite often it could be a bottle or a glass falling towards you.
Yeah.
You've got to be switched on, paying attention. You've got to read what's coming. So,
No doubt.
yeah.
No.
So there's my epiphany.
Yeah, man, I love it, dude. And I think too that that's a good lead in, because you're talking about a situation where in both aspects, you've got to learn, you've got to be able to step back, you've got to be able to reevaluate, you've got to be willing to take criticism. And if you're willing to do that, you're a person that's willing to ask questions. You're a person who's willing to dig. So I'm pretty stoked to hear what you got for number 2, Dazzy. And that is, if you could ask one question and you would get the answer to it, what would that question be and why?
Okay. So this one, because this is outside of the rack, and this is away from what we're normally talking about. Because first of all, you're thinking, okay, who's right, Bondarchuk or Franz Bosch? Where are we going with this? But what's our best options here, or do we need to meet down the middle? Then you sit there and think, okay. And I don't want to, obviously, the last thing I want to be is controversial, but then the next thing genuinely that popped into my head was, what made Jesus different to all the other Messiah that were knocking around at the time? Was it his charisma? Was it his magnetic personality? Or was it genuinely the fact that he's the Son of God? And that's the question answered for all time and from here on in. Who knows? So lots of things bounce around my head, but I went straight back to your message where you're saying this is out of the rack. So what I'm left with is my girls. So what I'm left with here is there anything that I can do that I'm not already doing to make sure that I can, as best as any father can, guarantee my girls have the start in life and they're as happy in their lives at 50 as I am sat here right now and talking to you. Is there anything I need to change? What do I need to do? Is there anything I can put in place? How do I need to be a different Daz Venness, father to 2 teenagers? That's the question. Or do I need to tinker? And that's what I'm left with, is my little princesses.
It's freaking rad, bro.
Yeah. It's a bit deep. It may be a bit sort of corny, but everything that everything that I do in the sport, in cricket, is to see if we can move things further ahead and just make it better. The game's evolving, and you want everything to just be better. It's no different when you come home, and the opportunities to be home. In a brief, we spend a lot of time either on the road or away from home, in the office, in the gym, and coaching hours. It takes up a lot of time. There's no doubt that you end up having 2 families. You have one family at home and one family at work, and there's no doubt that this family, appreciate what you're doing. But blood is blood, and babies are my babies. So that's the answer to my second one. What can I put in place, if anything, to make sure that they're just happy and just go through life with the same perspective as I have, which was given to me by my parents?
That's awesome, brother. But I also think, again, that's another great tie-in. We talk about how much we work. We talk about the hours. Everybody loves the hashtag grind and all that garbage, whatever that all means. But, the idea of having a second family because we're here so often or there so often or with them so often, like you guys, you're on the road so often. But eventually you got to have your zero, man. You got to get yourself back to neutral. So what's Dazzy's escape?
Honestly, again, I went around the houses and you look at a few things, but there's only one genuine, true escape for me, and that is the gym. I'm 50 years old, and I started lifting in March 1983. All right, so 37 years I've been lifting. You miss a few weeks here and there. I had a little bit of around about 10 years ago when I had a total rupture of my patellar tendon. So you end up just doing rehab and miss out a few things then. But other than that, it's just been consistently in that place. And I look at the fact that, I've spent, this is coming into my 25th winter now. So this is 25 years in pro sport and in team sport. But the deeply personal accomplishment that comes from just every set, every rep, that still gives me peace, and it gives me clarity, and it means that, okay, that's my personal accomplishment. That is me. If I've got any demons, that's where to go. If I've got frustrations, that's where they're dealt with. The amount of times, and you've had conversations with Rob in the past as well, haven't you? So Rob and I, we love a little get together whenever we can, and if we get the opportunity, we'll be deadlifting to Rengar or some interesting soul music and some bouncing tunes. The amount of times I've spent with that man and just have those moments of clarity, the amount of times we've put the world to rights time and time again, the two of us in that gym. And there's a couple of other guys that I train regularly with, Andy Mitchell and Joel Tratt in particular. Again, 2 S&Cs on the county circuit now, and they've both been interns with me in the past. And things just get sorted out. Problems that have just been napped away in your brain. It's always the way. You have that little distraction. For other people, if they're singing to a song, they remember where they've left their car keys. For me, it's little moments of clarity in there, in that place. And that has always been my personal sort of escape, and that balances me out 100%. And after that, I'm back to my girls and my hobby of skimming stones into the sea. And find a pebbly beach if we can. We've got one not too far away, and how many bounces can we get? Skimming stones with the girls, great time. So that for me, that's it. There's nothing that beats it.
I love it, man. And I think that there's not a truer thing that might have ever been said on this show, or at least to this point, that it's like you could solve the world's problems in the gym. Like, we call it, like, there's 3 of us and some of our sports med people jump in now too. We call it our fellowship, and because it's like we're training and we're talking about everything and nothing. And it's like the problems from the political idiocy that is going on in this country right now to like COVID and how we need to progress to why is this bike squeaking? Like, like all over the place. But it's just like, for some reason, when you're sitting there just going at it, whatever you're doing, whether you're lifting something heavy or it's me being an idiot on the skier or the rower, like something just happens and questions find answers. And it's really awesome.
Every time. I'm glad you have exactly the same. And a good thing now at Surrey as well is, our physio, Alex Tyso, we'll pop downstairs, we'll sing to some shocking 80s tunes. And again, it's those little moments where you're piecing together just bit pieces of the jigsaw puzzle. And it's amazing how many times you find that little piece, all of a sudden, you can see what's in front of you. It's there. You find the corner piece that finishes the job.
No doubt. And it's almost like kids need more physical education. Maybe that would help them cognitively. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. Who knows?
Just throw that out there, man.
Yeah. But nah.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, no doubt. But listen, Dazzy, it's great to see you, brother. I'm so glad you're doing well, man. I'm glad we could get this down. And listen, buddy, it's always great to see you and catch up, and I appreciate your time.
Right back at Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. You know, it's been a long time coming for you and I. We've had a few setbacks, but I'm so good to see you happy, see you smiling, and see you ready to go, kicking on. Awesome, mate.
Yeah, man. You too, brother. Appreciate you, man. And we'll be in touch soon, bud. Cheers.
Roger that. Take it easy, bud.
Yeah.